All right, let's talk about the game that I know you and I were glued to end off this Monday Moanings. This isn't really Moanings. This is a pretty fantastic thing that you and I are both excited about. That UTSA Western Kentucky football game. It deserves all the credit in the world because this football game was absolutely wild. Here's my first couple takeaways before we really dig into this game. One, Steve, I am absolutely shocked that this did not hit the over. I thought we were a solid hit for 72 and a half. It didn't even get to 60. I thought that it was going to easily be the over, especially after what happened last year, which was 90 points. UTSA was a 6.5 point favorite. They only won by a field goal. This is a really good football game, 31-28 final. Both these teams looked really good. We're going to focus a little bit on the UTSA side because you know that we are basically honorary roadrunners on this show.
Yes.
Frank Harris is one of our favorite players. We believe that he deserves a shining chance for the Heisman. You talked about last week that there was an opportunity for 3 wide receivers to average 100 yards per game. We didn't see any of them get 100 yards in this one. But you know what? They relied on the running game. Frank Harris didn't have to use his arm so much. We talked, is there a possibility he hits 400 yards passing? He didn't have to. I believe he only had 275 in this one. So they relied on the running game. Their defense looked really good. I was actually quite impressed with their defense. This is a pretty good football game. Really happy with UTSA. What was your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think both defenses surprised us because, I mean, again, they didn't come into the games with a strong resume. They made some huge stops at critical times, and that's what kept the game so close. It's funny you talked about, we thought, they would blow past the over. The ESPN broadcast crew actually said when they were reviewing the game in the beginning that they thought that both teams would beat the over by halftime, and that was everybody's thought. But it really was. I mean, it was the first 2 possessions. UTSA scored first. Frank Harris running the ball, not throwing it, and then Reed came back, and countered through a touchdown pass of his own. But the defenses came up at key times. The UTSA receivers, okay, they didn't get 100 yards. True. They ran some of the best routes I have seen in college football this year. They were running routes because, again, Harris was getting time to throw. I mean, and he was still having to roll out and be mobile to try to make the pass he was looking at. But those receivers were running little out routes, routes over the middle. Harris eventually knew one of those guys was going to get free. And that is as important, and it shows you the kind of team the Roadrunners are. You have to hear in the back of your head all this talk. Oh, the 3 amigos. We've 3 guys that get 100 yards average. You can't help but hear it because UTSA is starting to get noticed by more than just SlasherU. I mean, more and more national analysts are standing up and saying, and we made fun of the little sticker on the helmet deal. Clark got one because of the kind of routes that he was running and the tough catches that he made. Not because he was breaking a 70 or 80-yard touchdown or he was running, a fly pattern or a post pattern, because he ran the tough routes and he made the tough catches. That's what you need to do to win, to be a conference winner. And that's what stood out for me. That and the fact, well, we'll talk about this before we get off of this story, but this whole Australian punter thing is really just drawing me in. Are there no more American punters? Will there ever be another American that wins the Ray Guy Award for punters?
Apparently no good ones.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, we watch, there's 131 teams. I can't imagine that there's 131 Australian guys that go to the Kick Academy there, in Melbourne.
Not with that attitude.
They're going to play on Division I programs, but it's unbelievable. And these guys just, usually when you praise, if a punter gets one inside the 20, you're like, what a great job. Yeah, great field position. that was really valuable. These guys are doing it like that's no big deal. Okay, I'm going to punt it here with about a spin rate of 110, and it's going to bounce, but it's going to bounce to the left rather than to the right. I mean, it's amazing how these guys are doing it.
Yeah, they're making coffin corner a whole different definition lately. It's been interesting to bring the punting game back into the mix and show how important it has been to really change the game. I mean, watching the average, I don't know how many times I've seen a graphic on. Well, I didn't see them on ESPN Plus because those graphics were absolutely dreadful. I will say during that game, but I'm shocked how many times we do see those graphics in other football games when they talk about the average field position of a game and talk about usually the one who starts with the worst field position doesn't win the football game. And those punters really do a big job on helping their team out. You gave the sticker the Clark. I'm going to give him to Brady and Smith. I think both of those guys really did a great job in the running game. I really do. I think they put the offense on their back because they could. And I don't want, they didn't even control the clock. This game was really even if you look at the team stat line. I believe both of them were about 30 minutes possession time. I think UTSA had them by like 6 seconds. Passing, I think they had them, or overall total yards, I think they had them by like 10 yards at most. So it was a very, very close game. Shout out to Western Kentucky. Austin Reed, fantastic quarterback. He played good. I am very impressed with Malachi Corley. Said that last week as well. He had a great week 0 coming out. He's only a sophomore, and he's doing some wild things on the field. We're going to be talking about him for a long time. I hope he stays in the group of 5, doesn't transfer to a power 5, but he has the opportunity to do so. So shout out for Western Kentucky because they really did play a good football game. However, UTSA heads to 4-2, 31-28 final. Frank Harris, as we love to talk about on this game, didn't throw for 400 yards, but he throws a touchdown pass, rushes for one as well to start the game out, which was a pretty incredible run, his 5th touchdown rush of the season. I'm still really impressed by this guy, Steve.
He's a pro quarterback. Okay. And he showed that because he made the adjustments in his game to give his team the best chance to win. I mean, there was a lot of hype. It would have been easy for him to want to go bombs away all the time. He managed the game. He made tough throws when he had to. He got first downs. He had a really nice quarterback draw on the first drive. He's just special. I mean, and every time I look at him, I try to send a tweet, or I'm going to start sending emails to the New York Giants front office. That's who I need as my next franchise quarterback. I want it to be Frank Harris. And since we're talking about Frank Harris, thank you to his dad for not only, boosting us and saying, hey, great job, thanks for the coverage. He gave some great information in a conversation, that we had, on Twitter, like by direct message. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Harris. I mean, you're a proud papa, and you should be. But the UTSA fan base as a whole, thank you.
Absolutely.
For saying thank you to us for giving the Roadrunners so much run. Hey, I mean, your team has earned it, and now you as a fan base are making sure. I mean, there's going to be a UTSA story every week. Don't worry about it. I mean, we both love this football team. We love the way that they play football. Are they going to be in the national championship conversation? No. Are they going to be in the New Year's Six Bowl? New Year's Six Bowl? No. But whatever bowl game they're in, it's going to be much watch because they're going to be matched up against a Power 5 school probably, and they're going to take them to school.
I'm thinking back-to-back Conference USA champions. That's what I'm thinking. We get to see them on Friday, take on Florida International. They are favored right now, 33 points in that one. Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern time on that one. It's going to be an interesting football game. FIU is 2-2. UTSA can easily get to 5-2 in this one. Don't sleep on them, obviously. We know what we've seen, what kind of college football year we've seen with teams being favorites. We just saw it in the MAC with, I believe, Eastern Michigan and Western Michigan. They were a 28-point favorite, and they got blown out. So, don't sleep on this team. But that's where the line sits right now. Steve, anything else to add?
Well, no, I could do a 2-hour show on UTSA, I think. But again, it's starting to get